I want to tell you a story about a night that changed my life forever. It was a simple, quiet evening in our house in Boise, Idaho. We have lived there for a while, and it is a place where we usually feel safe and comfortable. My wife, Rachel, has always been a very strong person. She is smart, and she is very quick with her words. But for a long time, she used those words in a way that could be very sharp. They could feel like a small knife cutting through your heart. For many years, I let those words get to me. I would feel sad, or I would get angry, and I would let her words decide how my day was going to go. But one night, she said something that went a bit too far. It was a moment that forced me to look at our life and our marriage in a whole new way. We were sitting in our living room. It was one of those peaceful nights where the only sound was a low, steady hum of the air conditioner. I love that sound because it feels like the house is breathing. I was sitting in my favorite chair, the one that is just soft enough, holding a book in my hands. I love the smell of old paper and the way a good story feels when you are right in the middle of it. I was half listening to the evening news on the television, just relaxing after a long day of work and responsibilities. I felt like everything was okay. That was when Rachel decided to drop a bomb on me. She didn't scream, and she didn't shout. She didn't even sound upset. She said it very casually, almost like she was talking about the weather or what we should buy at the grocery store the next day. "You know," she said, looking over at me, "if I really wanted to, I could find someone new to be in my life within just 24 hours. She said it with a little laugh, as if it were a funny game we were playing. She leaned back in her chair and crossed her legs, watching me with eyes that were waiting for me to get upset. She had a small smile on her face, the kind of smile that dares you to react. She wanted to see me get angry. She wanted to see me feel scared or jealous. She wanted to know that she still had the power to make me feel small with just a few words. But that night, something deep inside me felt different. I did not move. I did not even look up from the page of my book. For a long time, Rachel had lived for these kinds of moments. She liked it when I got mad or when I started to worry about our future. She used those feelings to feel like she was the one in charge of everything. But I had finally learned a big secret. When you give into those little games, you just give the other person more power to hurt you. I slowly closed my book. I heard the quiet click of the cover meeting the pages. It felt like a very important and solid sound in the quiet room. It was the sound of me making a choice. "Is that right?" I asked her. My voice was very soft and very steady. I wasn't being mean, and I wasn't being loud or aggressive. I was just being calm. It is a strange thing to learn, but being calm can sometimes make a person more nervous than being angry. When you are angry, people know what to do. But when you are calm, they don't know what comes next. Rachel blinked at me. She looked a little bit surprised, like she had missed a step while walking. She was expecting me to say something sharp back to her, or maybe to look hurt and ask her why she would say such a thing. When I didn't do those things, her smile started to fade away, bit by bit. She leaned forward and put her elbows on her knees. She looked at me like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "You aren't taking this seriously, are you?" she asked. I looked directly into her eyes then. I really looked at her. I saw a mix of two things in her face. She looked very confident on the outside, but I could see a little bit of fear on the inside. I think she used those mean words because she was feeling unsure of herself and wanted to feel strong. It was a way for her to protect herself by being the first one to act tough. "I am taking you seriously," I told her gently. I wanted her to know I heard her, but I don't feel scared or threatened by what you said. If that is what you want to do, then go ahead. Try it. See what happens next. Rachel laughed again, but this time it sounded a bit shaky. It wasn't a real, happy laugh. "You think I'm joking?" she asked, and I could hear her voice starting to tremble just a little bit. She was losing her footing because I wasn't playing the role she had written for me. That was the exact moment I realized that the balance in our marriage had changed for good. For many years, she had been the one telling the story of us. She did this by being a bit bossy, by teasing me in ways that weren't very kind, and by saying things that made me doubt my own value as a husband and a man. But on this night, all that power went away. I didn't have to yell, and I didn't have to make any threats of my own. I just stayed still. I was like a mirror reflecting her own words back to her. so she could see how they actually sounded. I could see her mind working very fast, trying to figure out what to do next. She had never seen me stay this calm before. She thought she knew how I would act, but I had changed the rules of the game without even saying so. In that moment, the living room felt very small. The air felt a bit heavier, like right before a rainstorm. I realized that being quiet and sure of yourself is much stronger than any loud argument you could ever have. Rachel started to move around in her seat, looking very uncomfortable. "So, what?" she asked, her voice sounding a bit more like a challenge now, but a weaker one. "Are you just going to sit there and let me say things like that to you? Are you just going to ignore me?" I shook my head very slowly. "I am not letting you do anything, Rachel. I am just watching. I am observing what is happening between us." She looked even more confused. She didn't understand what I meant. She was used to people reacting right away, making quick judgments, and then giving up because they were tired of fighting. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. I was standing on my own 2 feet, and I felt very solid. I wasn't going to be pushed over by a few sentences designed to hurt me. There was a long silence between us. It wasn't an angry silence, but it was very heavy. Then she asked a question that sounded a bit sad, almost like a child would ask. "And if I did leave, if I was gone tomorrow, would you even care?" I thought about my answer very carefully. I didn't want to lie to her, but I wanted to be very clear about how I felt. I wasn't scared of question, but I knew the truth mattered more than ever in this moment. "Of course I would care," I said, looking her right in the eyes. I didn't look away, but not in the way you might think. I care about being a good person. I care about the truth. I care about respect. Those are things that you cannot just go out and buy like a new pair of shoes. You cannot replace those things in a single day, no matter how hard you try. Her face changed when I said that. The small, fake smile was completely gone now. It was replaced by a look of doubt and maybe a little bit of sadness. "Being a good person? Respect?" she repeated. She sounded like she didn't quite believe me, or like those were words from a language she hadn't spoken in a long time. "I am talking about someone who can love me, someone who can spend time with me and make me laugh. I'm talking about someone who can fill your spot in this house." I stopped her gently. I kept my voice low and kind, like I was talking to a friend who was having a hard time. "Rachel, love is not like a toy or a bag of sugar. You can't just swap one person for another like you are at a store returning something that didn't fit. What you are calling a replacement isn't real. It's just an idea in your head to make you feel like you have more control. Real love takes time. It takes building deep roots year after year, through good times and bad times. You can't find that in 24 hours. I could see her thinking about this. Her eyes got a bit narrow as she processed what I was saying. She was frustrated because her old tricks, the ones that always worked to get me riled up, weren't working tonight. For so long, we had a pattern. She would say something mean, I would get upset and start defending myself, and then she would feel like she won the argument. But tonight, I broke that circle. I just stayed steady like a big rock in the middle of a storm. The waves hit the rock, but the rock stays where it is. Rachel let out a very small sigh. It was so quiet you almost couldn't hear it. That silence felt louder than any shouting match we ever had in our lives. She was lost because she didn't know how to talk to me when I wouldn't fight back. "Fine," she finally said, almost talking to herself. "Maybe I didn't realize how strong you are." Her words were very soft, like she was testing the water to see if I would jump at her or try to act superior. But she was finally admitting that things were different now. She saw that I wasn't the same man I was an hour ago. I just nodded my head. I didn't try to act like I had won a trophy or a big prize. I didn't brag about being right. I just acknowledged what she said with a simple nod. I knew that things weren't perfectly fixed yet. Life and marriage are a lot of work. Rachel always liked to push and see where the limits were. But I also knew a very important lesson that night. When someone's power comes from making you upset, if you stop getting upset, they don't have that power anymore. It's like unplugging a lamp. The light just goes out. For the first time in our marriage, I felt like I was the one holding the steering wheel. I wasn't using force to turn the car, and I wasn't being mean to the passenger. I was just being present and using quiet, honest words. Rachel looked at me with a lot of curiosity. She looked frustrated, but maybe there was a little bit of respect there too, even if she wasn't ready to say it out loud. She put her chin on her hand and studied my face like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. She was seeing me for who I really was, not just a person she could push around. "You really don't feel scared?" she whispered. I shook my head slowly. "Not at all. You can say those things and you can boast about them. But who I am doesn't depend on you proving something to me. My worth as a person doesn't change because of a threat you make when you are feeling upset. And the truth of our marriage doesn't change either. We have built something here, and a few sharp words can't knock it down if I don't let them." She pressed her lips together and looked down at her hands. "You're calm. You're too calm," she whispered. That was when I realized something very important about people. A lot of people think being calm means you are weak or that you don't care, but they are wrong. Being calm is actually one of the most powerful things you can ever do. It shows that you have control over yourself and your feelings. It shows you have patience. It shows that you refuse to be pushed around by someone else's bad mood. I had to learn this the hard way through many years of arguments and feeling stressed out and tired. But tonight it finally clicked. "I'm not here to prove that I am better than you, Rachel," I told her softly. "And I don't want to watch you try to prove things to me either. If you think love is a race to see who can find someone else first, then you might need to think about what love really means. Love isn't about being fast or being the winner. It is about being deep. It is about really understanding the person sitting across from you. It is about trusting the person next to you even when things are hard." She sat there and processed every single word. The look on her face changed into a frown, but it was a thoughtful one, not an angry one. She was moving around in her chair because she felt a bit uneasy with the truth. I didn't need to say anything else. I didn't need to fill the air with more words. The silence in the room was doing all the work for me. The truth was right there between us, like dust floating in a beam of sunlight. You couldn't ignore it. Rachel had always liked the fireworks of a big fight, but she couldn't get one from me tonight. And without the fireworks, she had to look at the reality of our lives. Finally, she spoke again. Her voice was much lower and softer than it had been all evening. "Maybe I didn't realize how much you value yourself," she said. "I see now that I don't control you. I can't just make you do what I want by saying mean things." It was a small admission, and she still had her pride, of course. But the admission was there. That was enough for me for one night. That one quiet moment was a huge turning point for both of us. The game was over, and I had reached a new place of peace. I didn't do it by being a bully or by yelling. I did it by being unwavering and knowing who I was. I gave her a gentle smile. It wasn't a mean smile or a smile that said, "I won." It was just a smile that said I felt sure of myself and that I cared about her. It's not about who is in charge, Rachel. It's about understanding each other. It's about knowing that the people in your life are valuable and shouldn't be treated like they are easy to replace. It's about respecting yourself and the person you are with. If we want to have a good life together in this house, we have to be honest and clear with each other. Anything else is just acting a part in a play. She nodded her head slowly, looking at me with new eyes. The energy in the room felt completely different than it did when the night started. It wasn't tight or angry or full of hidden meanings anymore. It was a new feeling of recognition. We were two people who had been through a lot, finally being real with one another. That night, I went to sleep without a big fight hanging over my head. I didn't feel that burning frustration in my chest that I had felt for so many years. I felt like I had found my peace again, right there in Boise. Rachel realized that she had met someone who wouldn't just follow her lead or react to her every whim. She met someone who knew that true strength is quiet and patient. I learned that power isn't about who can leave first or who can find a new partner the fastest. Power is about knowing your own worth and staying true to it. By staying calm, I wasn't just proving her wrong. I was proving to myself that respect and confidence are much stronger than any mean word or any empty threat. And in the end, as we sat there in the quiet of the night, Rachel finally understood that too. We weren't just husband and wife. We were two people learning how to be kind to each other again.